how do you create some evidence? How do you go about some really strategic, sometimes maybe a little bit wily techniques to use feedback to get more work? And time me because I'm not watching myself. Thank you. A couple things here. Glenn from Collins Engineers is here. Pulled a page off of their website. This is just a brilliant example of how one of your peers, from the very introduction, what's the first place someone might learn about you, read about you, see you? It's on your website. You go to collinsengr.com and they got a client satisfaction tab. They put their results right here for the whole world to see. Now, they transform the information a little bit. You guys would all see that pie chart with the slivers of red, and for marketing purposes, we might not want to put the slivers of red out there. So we've translated it here into a bar graph. We exceed expectations on accuracy 80% of the time. We meet and exceed 99% of the time. It's a great way to transform the information that you have, put some marketing on it, and really make the information look very strong. So everybody says they're client-focused. Show them that you're actually doing something about it. Transpo Group is another firm that we worked with. They've got a very similar process here. And they actually put in here, we've received over 2,400 client responses. They're validating the sample size. This isn't some number that we picked, the 12 people that love us. We got 2,400 of these things. And if you're actually on their website, they've got a rotating list of client testimonials that they harvest directly out from the feedback tool. What? Transpogroup.com. So you can actually run a report that says, show me all of the comments that are tied to scores over 5.5. Great way to get a concise, harvested list of where those testimonials are. And I've had people say, hey, Ryan, is there a checkbox or something on the survey that they can check where it's okay for me to share their testimonial? No. What better way to start a conversation with the client than get some wonderful praise and some great feedback and then call them? Oh, man, thank you. Thank you so much. This was great. Oh, it made me feel so good to know that we're doing a great job for you. Do you mind if we take this, a comment that you made, read it to them? They probably forgot what it says. Do you mind if I take this comment and use it in my proposals or on my website? Do you mind if I put your name and company on it? Particularly public sector, they oftentimes don't want to have their name on it, so always check before you put their name on it. But it's a great opportunity to start that conversation and show the client how much you appreciate the relationship with them. So begin with the marketing. Begin with your brand impression. You can also then move into your proposals. Everybody says in their proposal the same blithering, pointless stuff. Clients are the most important thing, and we strive to exceed your expectations, and everybody says it, so it doesn't mean anything. Well, instead, you can take this information and actually show the client, we've got a quality control process. We have a client management process. It's not some useless word. We actually do something. We've got a method of making sure we're on track for you all the time. Describe the process to them. Let them kind of see what it looks like. Spell it out. Here's an example of a firm, not here today. This is a page right out of their proposal. It's got their branding, look and feel. I covered their name up, but just crisp, clean. Talks about the process. When you do this, here's what we're going to do in response. It's setting the expectation that this isn't just some measurement. It's a tool that we're going to use to communicate with you more effectively. So you're, again, introducing this to your clients as a real differentiator. You're providing social evidence because you've got data. You're sharing the process. We're going to get your data. And because we publish our data, we want to make sure your data fits with all of our other data. If I'm tracking it that closely for the other 2,400, how much am I going to pay attention to you? And you're sharing that information very clearly. So what you end up with is evidence-based excellence. You're not saying you're great. Your clients are saying you're great. And you can even address, 98.2% of the time we meet and exceed expectations. And the 1.8% of the time where we don't meet your expectations, we have found our people have followed up 100% of the time and done something about that information. And we know we're going to make assumptions and you're going to want things different. We're going to find stuff, but we've got a process to find it and we've got a process to fix it. You've got evidence to back all of that up. I worked with Glenn on a proposal about 2 years ago. Forget which state you were working with. Utah. And I don't think he had worked for this particular client before. Is that correct?
No, it was our first go. We did our positioning. It was our first opportunity.
Okay. And Glenn sent me an email saying, hey, here's a snippet from the RFP. And they got this piece here that says, how do we know that you're going to do a good job for us? And Glenn says, can we use the client feedback tool for that? Yeah. So we not only were able to respond to that snippet with, here's exactly how we're going to know. We're able to respond with, here's what we've already been measuring with our other clients. And in this case, they were positioning 2 particular project managers for this project. And we're able to say, and in fact, looking at the feedback results, these 2 project managers are coming out of our top quartile of performers. Is that a very believable stance? Now that got you a couple of extra points on the proposal, right? That was enough to win. Sometimes, particularly for those public sector proposals that you're working on, it's just a matter of 1 or 2 points to distance you from the competition. They were able to answer that question a lot stronger than anyone else. And that's not the only points you got, but that was enough to help push it over the edge. And now I want to get into a pretty heady topic here, and use this power for good. Do not use this power for evil. I am about to reveal some dangerous secrets about how the mind works. This is a great book by Robert Cialdini. He is a marketing psychologist at University of Arizona. If you're into psychology or you're into marketing, this is an absolute must-read. Cialdini breaks down the fundamentals of human behavior and decision-making, and he says there are 6 key drivers to how people make decisions. And marketing is all about influencing that decision-making process. I'm not going to reveal all 6, but 2 of them in particular fall into play in the selection process. One of them is the idea of consistency. Mike referenced that earlier. One of them is the idea of social evidence, which Mike also referenced earlier. There's also things like reciprocity and liking and expertise, a few others like that. And obviously, if you're going to a client you've already worked with, you hope they like you, makes it easier to win work with them. But particularly where you're going into a new situation, a new potential client, how are you going to win? You're going to put your proposal together, you're going to aim for all the points that you can get, you float that proposal out there, and then what do? Sit there and hope and pray. I'm going to offer a process here that takes about 5 minutes per proposal, and we've had reports that it's increased win rates up to 50%. I see some pens coming out, okay. Your biggest opportunity to influence the decision process is before the decision has been made. Once you find out you've lost, can you change that outcome? You can certainly use a client feedback tool survey and do a proposal lost, debrief type situation, but you really can't change the outcome. Maybe you can do better next time. I don't want to do better next time. I want to do better this time. I want to win this project. What's the average cost to put together a proposal in your firm? $10,000 and higher, raise your hand. Yeah. That's some expensive proposals. That cost a lot of money to put those together. We want to win this time. So when you submit the proposal, hey Lee, all the stuff we talked about. I respond to all your needs. Here's that proposal. Thank you so much for letting me do that. You know, on page 12, I call out what our client management process looks like, and I kind of got to show that to you. So as part of this submission, I'm going to request you to take 2 minutes and give me some feedback so you see what that process looks like before you've lost. Now, when Lee's looking through this proposal and he goes, huh, that's pretty good stuff. This is good stuff. And we ask questions like, Lee, how well did I clarify the scope for your project? How well did we identify a schedule and a budget? How well did we respond to your questions and concerns? Not a single question in there is about, am I going to win, pick me, pick me. It's all about how well did the proposal give you what you needed to make a selection. Do you realize the client's project began already? The first step of the client's project is to identify who's going to help them. The decision itself is a project, and your proposal to them is a professional service. You're giving them a professional service by proposing. You're helping them understand how they're going to get the work done. So you're just, am I helping you? That's all you're asking. And when Lee goes on the record and says, yeah, that was great. I clarified all the questions, understand this, understand that. He's just giving me all this positive feedback about the proposal. Well, now that you've just said yes to a whole bunch of questions, how hard is it for him to say no, you don't get the work? What happens is this idea of cognitive dissonance. When Lee says, yes, this is great, this meets my needs, this gives me everything I was looking for, it makes it harder for him to say no later on. And this idea of consistency psychology comes into play. What happens when a politician changes his mind on a big issue? Do we applaud his newfound insights? You're laughing. Why? These are smart people who are running our world. Shouldn't we be happy that they can take new information and make new decisions? We roast them. What words do we call these politicians who change their mind? What are some of the words? Flip-flopper, wishy-washy, yeah, spineless. Not really positive words, are they? So because we associate negative responses to changing your mind, we are socially wired to act consistent with something that we've said. I'm a parent of children, and every now and then one of the kids catches me and I'm wrong, and I tell you what, it's hard. It's hard for me to admit to my kid, yeah, I was wrong, I need to change my behavior, you were right. It's tough. So when your client goes on record saying, man, that stuff was great, it's hard for them to say no because then he would look inconsistent. And he doesn't want to look wishy-washy. On top of that, you get this idea of social evidence. You've baked into the proposal all these great comments and scores and evidence that you do a great job. Well, if other people, just like the buyer, are saying you do a great job for them, are they a little bit more likely to believe that? So that social evidence affects them as well. I shop on Amazon. The first filter when I go buy something is I want to see 4 stars and up. That's the first thing I filter. I don't know any of those people that have reviewed the thing, but if they want the same kind of thing like I want, they're probably like me enough that I'm going to believe their opinion. So it's giving yourself these 4-star reviews right out of the gate, and they believe it because it's data. You didn't say it, it's just data. That can be very influential in their decision-making process. Plus, if there's a committee who's making a decision, if they go on record saying that was a great proposal, how are they going to talk about you to the rest of the committee? They're going to talk more positively about you. And suddenly, the way they talk about you, they'll almost be on your side because they've just said you did great, so they're going to defend why you're great to everyone else on the decision committee. So it's a fantastic opportunity to use this information to actually influence your clients to the outcomes that you're after. Now, if you work in public sector, sometimes there is that cone of silence, and you're not allowed to have any conversations inside that cone of silence. So then we got to get a little bit creative with how we might put this information out there. If you can, and marketers, don't laugh at me, if you can, submit the proposal 2 days early. Leaves you a little bit more time before you get into that cone of silence. If you can't, the best way to win a proposal is to be there before the RFP is issued, right? To write the RFP. Well, you got to be talking to the client to write the RFP. You have all these great meetings. You're developing their own understanding of the project. After one of those development meetings, get some meeting follow-up feedback. Hey, we just had this great meeting talking about that thing that I know you want to do later. How well did I help facilitate that meeting? You did a great job. You really helped me get some clarity and understanding. You're not even asking about the proposal, but you got them hooked. You got them on record saying you're doing a good job for them. It will change their behavior. But then what happens if there's a low score? Won't we be committing them to their negative association? I was working with the firm in Kansas City, and I've done my workshop. Many of you have been through the workshop. Some of you yet to go through it, you'll see. And a biz dev person said, hey, this is great. You know, I got a proposal going out this afternoon. Can I? Yeah, sure. So we sat down together and sent that out. And Michelle emails me the next day and goes, hey, I got all 2s on this proposal. Wow, what's going on? Well, it's a 20-year client. I don't get it. Why do you think she said that? You've heard me all say that before. Well, you know, she's a new project manager at the client. I've never worked with her before, so I'm not really sure. Michelle called the client. Come to find out, this new project manager at the client organization was used to those 20-page proposals, and since they'd been working for 20 years, this one company was just doing one-page task orders. So I submitted a one-page task order. She wanted 20 pages of boilerplate, so I sent her 20 pages of boilerplate. Guess what? She won the work. She won the project. And the client, the project manager, was so impressed at how nimble this business development person was. She said, hey, I was going to send phase 2 of the project out to bid, but can you just go ahead and take care of that for me too? Walked away with almost $200,000 in project that she would have lost if she not send one simple survey. And the goal is, your client isn't out to get you. They're not out to trick you into losing. Your clients want to pick the best person to do the job. The clients are on your side. So you're giving them the information, you're giving them the opportunity so that you can put your best foot forward so they can make the best possible decision. It's reducing their risk. So that's why they are engaged in the process. We've measured, we've actually found that public sector clients respond to proposal surveys at a 68% rate, which is shocking to me. Private sector responds about 42% rate. So there's really good precedent. It's been done hundreds of times. There's great precedent for this process working. So we talked about doing this at the pre-proposal phase before the proposal's been issued. You're helping them develop what the scope is. You're helping them develop what the project might be. That's particularly useful in very regimented and tight public works agencies. You can do so measuring at the RFP response itself. I've just submitted my response, and now I'm getting some feedback on the response. And sometimes you go through an interview phase as well. Well, if you've done some feedback up here in the beginning, you can bring that information with you to the interview. Some of the stuff that Pat was talking about earlier. Bring the information with you to the meeting and show them exactly what you're going to do with the information going forward. Got some feedback? You're displaying social evidence up on the screen for the whole committee to see. And look, here's the one issue that we found, and we talked to John afterwards and clarified this point over here. So I'm glad we were able to have that conversation. That's how we're going to work with you during the project. And the whole interview committee is saying, wow, you guys really put this into work. It's not some generic survey. It's not some lip service that we're just going to do great. You're really using this evidence-based information to help them make a better selection. You might also, or instead, use the feedback after the interview. How well did we answer questions? How well did we respond? It's a bit more of a meeting follow-up type process. So at any one of these points, you've got the opportunity, probably not at all 3 on the same response. Some of these procurement processes can take a year, so if that's the case, you might have the opportunity, but you certainly would not want to do it in all 3 cases. And I already talked about high or low. You can certainly use this information to win. And I think I did okay on time, right? All right. Thank you.